we have the Independence Bowl being played in Shreveport, Louisiana, Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana Tech, future Sun Belt opponents. Currently, Louisiana Tech in 2025 is in the Conference USA. They will not be in 2026 as Texas State is moving to the Pac-12. Enter Louisiana Tech into the Sun Belt so they can just slide right nice and easily into that West Division conference we love so much in college football because they have divisions and it makes sense and it works out and it's not too big of a conference and there aren't huge scheduling disparities.
Geographic, that makes sense.
Geographies that make sense. The Sun Belt is exactly how college football needs to be doing their conferences and divisions. But anyways, we're looking at this one. Louisiana Tech's a 9.5 point favorite. In most places, you can get them at 8.5, 9, depending on what you get. But it's going to be interesting. Tim Beck out as the Coastal Carolina head coach. You got quarterback shenanigans over there. Tad Hudson going to be making a second straight bowl game start for Coastal Carolina. Now, look, he wasn't terrible, okay, in the Myrtle Beach Bowl last year. It wasn't terrible, but it certainly was not enough to bolster them above a UTSA team that put up 40-plus points on them just a year ago. And Louisiana Tech's offense, it's weird, man. Like, I wouldn't classify them as explosive. I wouldn't classify them as a great offense, but they score points. And it hasn't mattered who's played quarterback for them. Evan Bullock, Blake Baker, and now we got a guy, a frisky quarterback on the spectrum of quarterback, right? You got bad quarterbacks, you got good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks. But on a separate scale, you have a frisky scale. Like guys that, maybe their risk of turnover is high, but they make some big time plays. Maybe they're just like great with their legs and not great with their arm. He's on that frisky scale, okay? And we're looking at this here. Louisiana Tech's played some pretty solid defense all year long. And they played some pretty dang good teams. They're in the Conference USA. They were 2 points away from being 7-1 in conference. And I don't know how the tiebreakers will work out there, but potentially a Conference USA championship appearance. So this was a overperformance of a year, I think, for Sonny Cumbie's Bulldogs here from Ruston, Louisiana, which, by the way, is only an hour away from Shreveport, Louisiana. So not a far trip for these boys. Coastal Carolina's got to make the trip several states over, get on a plane, and they're going to be missing several guys. It's going to be interesting. Although I say on the defensive side of the ball, Louisiana Tech will be missing some pretty key pieces here.
Absolutely. It's awesome. I will say, fantastic job to Louisiana Tech and Sonny Cumbie. After a rough year last year, getting it done, 7-5, could have, like you said, left meat on the bone with potentially even better season. Looking for 8 wins here as almost 10-point favorites in their home state, playing in a bowl game, also in a stadium, the Independence Stadium, that they have a long and successful and key history together. They've played about 71 games there in Shreveport. They used to play teams pretty consistently there. A lot of fun. Good note there. Good stuff for Louisiana Tech. Of course, on the other side, Jeremiah Johnson, also the interim head coach for Coastal Carolina, a name that should sound familiar to both these teams and both Louisiana Tech as well. He was the defense coordinator just a year ago for Louisiana Tech, heads over to Tim Beck to call defensive plays for him. Obviously, Tim Beck gets canned. He becomes the interim head coach. And, after Tuesday's game, right, he will be headed to Kansas State to coach defensive backs there in Manhattan for Colin Klein and his new staff. So there's a lot of change going on there for Coastal Carolina. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. We've kind of talked about that over and over again in a lot of these bowl previews where you have these coaching staffs that are balancing 2 jobs at once. It sounds like he's really bought in. It sounds like he wants to give and put his best foot forward because it is a big opportunity for him to coach a game. It's a big deal for him. I think that's exciting, and he should. You talked about, you kind of, mentioned that Louisiana Tech's getting missing some dudes on the defense that they will be missing in the portal for this game. Safety Jacob Fields is an absolute star, co-defensive player of the year in the CUSA, 92 tackles, 3 interceptions, including 2 pick sixes. He is in the portal. Do not expect him to play. And then Makai Mason as well is a dog for them. And then also even Colby Fields too, former, I think, LSU transfer. He's been hurt for, I think, since week 5. So that's the second linebacker that you've lost And you're going to need guys like Jaden Manfield to step up for you. Although I do have to mention safety Jakari Foster is an actual star for this defense here. Another one. You talked about how is Louisiana Tech scoring all these points offensively. It's because their defense has created so many turnovers, and no one more in the entire country than Jakari Foster. First team AP All-American, which first time in a long time for the Bulldogs there. 7 interceptions on the year. The leader in the FBS in interceptions. A lot of fun there with their defense. You talked about Tad Hudson or whoever's playing quarterback for Coastal Carolina. They're going to have their hands full, even with some of the opt-outs there for Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, you said it. Luke Olson's done a great job there, the defense coordinator. I mean, turnovers sometimes, or, there's a lot of variance involved with that. Not necessarily sustainable, but when you do it for an entire season with the new defensive coordinator, Luke Olson came from Jacksonville State, who, won the CUSA the year before that. He had coached, I believe, at Tulsa before that for a period of time. He's got a lot of experience. Seemed to have done a really nice job here with this unit, especially on the back end. Now, Tad Hudson, who doesn't have a lot of experience, throwing a lot of footballs. He's thrown 5 interceptions this year in 200 passing attempts. Not that that's terrible. It just hasn't come with a lot of touchdowns and a lot of yards.
Yeah, so, he's not being explosive. 4.6 yards per attempt, and 5 interceptions is not where you want to be.
Yeah, so even with some of the missing players here for this Louisiana Tech defense, I mean, I think you have better athletes here on the back end. You just play up. You play aggressive. I'm not sure Ted Hudson's going to be able to take advantage if you're over aggressive. I don't think you can get over aggressive if you're Luke Olson in this defense here for the Bulldogs. I look at this 9.5 point spread, and I kind of like the Bulldogs here at 9.5. I mean, they have shown the ability to blow out teams that are not good, and they have shown the ability to help teams compound their mistakes, which I have a feeling that Coastal Carolina will be in for one this game. Now you hire Ryan Beard as the next head coach there. I think that is a very interesting looking hire. We'll talk more about that as we get into the offseason with our coaching carousel previews when we talk about those. I think it's a very interesting look hire. I don't think it's a bad hire at all. And I'm sure he'll be in attendance in this game, watching it. And I'm excited for the Coastal Carolina future that deserves a lot more. But you look at this roster, CD, and the actual construction of it. For a Coastal Carolina team that had a lot of talent, a lot of momentum, before Jamie Chadwell left to go elsewhere. This Coastal Carolina team had really good players. We're talking NFL players, on both sides of the football for a number of years. Even as a team that was relatively new to the FBS, they were still playing very good football at a very high level. What happened to the construction of this roster? I mean, it just kind of blew up on these guys.
Absolutely. And in the portal, too. I mean, just this past offseason, I can think of 2, stud players, especially on the defense side of the ball, Matthew McDoom, Clef Lubin, guys that ended up at Power 4 gigs that played really well at an all-conference level at that position. So, obviously, it is so hard to sustain success, over the course of time in the G5, especially when you also have to sustain that success through coaching changes. We saw Jamie Chadwell head over to Liberty, and he's struggling, too, over there to keep and sustain success. Obviously, Tim Beck gets the boot there, which is understandable in terms of, the outcomes. But I do understand and do feel for the dude in terms of it's a rough spot to be in. It is a rough spot. It takes a ton of credit you got to give to these coaches in the G5 who are sustaining program success year over year after losing portal, after losing attrition, after losing coaching staffs. It is tough. It really is. But it's been bad this year. It has been really, really bad this year. I don't understand how they're in a bowl game. I was looking at their schedule and then reviewing their season. I'm just like, how did they make a bowl game? There's good reasons why they're 9.5 point dogs in this one here. I'll give you my pick here. I'm on Louisiana Tech. I'll pick it at 9.5 for the show. I will be taking them as a best bet at 8.5 because there's that number out there. So make sure you're shopping lines if you do so inclined, of course, responsibly. I just don't see Coastal Carolina having the guys. We saw a couple days ago In the American with with North Texas blowing a backdoor lead and backdoor cover. We've seen some of these over a touchdown spreads get the backdoor cover coming in for him. But the reality is, I don't think Coastal has the dudes to do that, to get the backdoor cover. I love the opportunistic defense of Louisiana Tech, and I like what they got there at quarterback. I think Kukoc has been awesome for him. He's gonna run for about 200 yards on the ground himself. They got explosive plays at the receiver in terms of Gandy and Jackson. Maybe not explosive, but like timely big plays, I think is more what it's been this year. And then Eli Finley is a dude. He's going to be a guy I'm going to be scouring some prop bets for because I think he's a monster. Last time he played a Sun Belt team was Southern Miss. He took over that game. He's already announced he's coming back next year, declining going to the portal, declining these bigger offers. He's fully bought in. I think the whole team is. Give me Louisiana Tech.